Another episode of Dubai Works Business Podcast. This week, I'm joined by Rafi Dikranian, the co-founder and CMO of SIPPY. They are the region's first digital platform empowering the specialty coffee community to compete against the mainstream players. Rafi's got 13 years experience at retail and serial entrepreneur. He also heads the marketing of Greenhouse, which is Shaloub Group's space for innovation and entrepreneurship. So SIPPY Beans is the UAE's biggest multi-brand marketplace connecting coffee enthusiasts with the best roasters in town. Today on the show, we'll be talking about their story, how Rafi came up with the idea, and the challenges and opportunities in the coffee industry and what the future has to hold. So good morning, Rafi.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining.
My pleasure having being here.
So tell us all about SIPPY.
All right, well, it's a bit of a long story. So I would say about 5 or 6 years ago, my partner and I, we met in Spain where I was doing my MBA. We saw an incredible opportunity in the specialty market space. And for those that don't know what specialty coffee is let's say the creme de la creme of coffee. It's not a marketing term, as a lot of people think it's a marketing term, but it's really a certification. So if a roaster wants to be deemed as specialty, they actually need to send samples to the SCA, which is the Specialty Coffee Association of the world. I used to be in the States, but now it's more global. And they'll give you a Q rating. So any coffee that's rated above 80 in the Q rating, it can be sold or marketed as specialty. So about 5 to 6 years ago, we saw a few notable cafes pop up, really selling high quality coffee and bringing that experience to the end user. And this has a lot to do with the brewing methods, not just the roasting process of coffee, but the brewing methods and how the baristas interact with the people. Like it's a lot more of an engagement and a conversation about how coffee is brewed rather than just a grab and go.
Okay.
So we saw this opportunity in the market, especially here, and we thought to ourselves, hey, you know what? This could be an interesting business idea that we can take on. And what is really the pain point? What's actually happening to these cafes? Because you know your big names, and I'm not going to mention any big chains out there, really have the marketing dollars. They have the brand equity, so they're really sucking all the traffic. And we saw that these independent cafes are really care about the quality and the supply chain between farmer down to the coffee cup. So our initial product was a mobile application that allowed users to find all these independent specialty cafes all throughout the UAE.
So direct to consumer, a consumer platform.
It's a consumer platform that really tackled a couple of issues. So the first issue is, where do I find artisanal specialty coffee where I can actually learn and drink and experience really the best coffee that the UAE has to offer. At the same time, specialty coffee, because of the process of sourcing and the supply chain, it is a lot more expensive. We're talking for a regular cup of coffee costs you anywhere between 16 to 18 dirhams. Now you're paying 25 up to 30 or up to 35. So we really needed to kind of bridge that gap in pricing. So we decided to put together a digital wallet. And at the time, this is happening about 4 to 5 years ago, digital payments weren't really so strong in the UAE. So this mobile payment solution was done in a way where you would top up your digital wallet within the app, and then you could go to any cafe and redeem the money that you had in the wallet. So it was agnostic to, or it wasn't really focused on a brand or a branch. It really liberated the user to go to any cafe. So think of it as almost like a loyalty, but it was independent. You could go anywhere. Our unicorn vision was to go global. Imagine going from London to Dubai, being able to use the same app, find the same cafe, use your stored currency, and buy coffee. The cool part about topping up is anytime you would top up, we would give you free credit. So the more money you would put in, the more free money we would give you. And that was kind of how the loyalty worked.
Yeah.
So that was kind of our first product. And it was an incredible journey because it was the first time my co-founder and I had actually built a mobile application.
Yeah.
So that's how we started. And that was kind of the birth of SIPPY.
Amazing. It sounds super innovative, but as you explained it so well, I wondered why there wouldn't have been one already, in terms of we've got loyalty apps and we've got ways to travel the world for boutique luxury hotels rather than the big chains. Why don't we have something for cafes and coffee? So it's a good idea.
So one thing that we always look at as entrepreneurs is what are the pain points in a certain geographic, and are there any solutions to that pain point in that geographic? So when we started doing our research, we found one or two of these players, one in London and one in New York, that were doing something very similar. So this is where we got the inspiration. We tweaked the business model. Their business model was a little bit different. We obviously had to tailor it to our region, and the way we built it, and I think this is something that is key in success in building any business, but especially a startup, is we worked together with the cafes at hand to really understand what their pain points are. So in a nutshell, I explained what SIPPY Beans is, but the inner workings and everything that came as user experience or user interface really came with the feedback of the cafes, because at the end of the day, we were solving their problem, and of course we did a lot of primary and secondary research with users of the app to understand what their pain points are. And the way we saw it is, if we can solve both the cafe's pain point and the user's pain point, we'll have a win-win situation. Everybody's happy and everybody is. But nobody expected COVID, and that's where the second chapter of SIPPY comes in.
Okay, please.
So obviously, our job was to convert digital traffic offline, right? We were finding all these coffee enthusiasts through performance marketing, etc., and telling them, download the app, find the nearest cafe, go and have fun. Obviously, all the cafes shut down. Users decided, I'm going to stay at home. It's dangerous outside. So our business was at risk of closing down because usability dropped immediately almost. So as any entrepreneur, as any startup, we look at how we can pivot, right? The keyword is pivot. Because we had been in industries for so long and we actually had some good equity with the full supply chain of coffee.
When did SIPPY originally launch?
So we launched originally in 2000. Okay, beta was in 2016. 2017 is when we actually launched.
Okay, so you were well established before COVID. It wasn't just a few months before.
Yeah, exactly. And we were doing quite well. We had built our equity in the community. But none of that mattered once COVID hit. So in 2020, last year, we started feeling the pain and said, okay, what can we do to continue to survive? And what are the other pain points that are happening in the supply chain of coffee? So since we had already had such great connections with the roaster community as well, we kind of peeked into their issues, and we found out that a lot of them weren't really digitally ready to serve B2C customers. They had well-established B2B, so a roaster could go to any cafe and sell their beans at wholesale. But nobody was really tackling, or very few players were really tackling the B2C side. And this is where we said, okay, so how can we empower these guys? And what is our skill set in providing value to the roasters? So this is where we decided to launch an e-commerce platform that's really a marketplace where local, and well, we've diversified now, but mainly local roasters, UAE roasters, can plug in and sell their roasted beans to consumers. So we have, at the moment, we're very proud to say we've got the largest specialty cafe marketplace in the UAE, and hopefully soon we might actually be the biggest in the world.
Amazing.
So we're very, very happy about that. But this was kind of the pivotal moment where we said, let's focus away from the app and look into this e-commerce marketplace where we empower the specialty coffee community from a roaster's perspective.
Yeah.
And make sure that people can be at-home baristas.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. It's still, as you started off helping consumers finding these places, then the interesting point about our behavior shift during COVID was that we wanted to cook more, we wanted to do things at home, and we obviously wanted the right beans, coffee beans and things like that. So it seems like a good fit, not a drastic pivot. And
it was something that we were looking at for a long time, and just because we eventually want to be every part of the puzzle in that supply chain. So when I mean that, we're really talking from the farmer all the way to the cup of coffee. One of the things that we wanted to achieve with the initial product of the app is, once we have our network of, and today we have over 600 specialty cafes in the UAE, and we started 2016 with maybe 16.
Really?
So the
really
growth
grown.
has been insane. But what we wanted to do is, because all these guys are more or less independent, we wanted to create this network together to house it under one roof. So if there was any commodity items that needed to be bought, such as coffee cups or packaging, whatever the case is, we could be a broker for them. That way they can get the MOQs that a big chain would go, where they have 1,000 locations, so they can really dictate the price of that commodity item, such as a paper cup, while a small mom and pop shop doesn't really have that capacity, doesn't have the volume. But if you combine everybody together, then we can negotiate together and get those prices down for everyone. So this was the idea.
Yeah. Can you just explain a little bit more? And there's probably not lines in the sand of what's the difference, but a specialty coffee and then an independent, are they, in your terminology, is that the same thing, or?
It's a very good question. Yes and no. The simple answer is yes and no. The complicated answer is you can be an independent cafe, so you can go and open a coffee shop, but you don't have to necessarily serve specialty coffee. So you can go to a big name, and I'm going to throw a couple of names out there, such as, let's say, Lavazza or Illy, which is great coffee, but it's not up to the standards of specialty. It doesn't hit the same Q rating. And that's
so independent
fine.
Stores serve those products?
Yes, they can.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to be a specialty cafe, this is where you start reaching out to international, but most likely local specialty roasters who have the certification. And once you do that, once you tap into a roaster that is specialty, they don't just send you the beans and say, good luck. They bring in their staff. They train your staff, the baristas within the cafe. They calibrate the machines, so the espresso machines, which need to be calibrated twice a day in order to hit consistency. So it gets a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
It can get really crazy, actually. So it's really interesting, but they ensure that the quality of the coffee that's being served doesn't damage their brand equity as well, the roaster's brand equity. So they ensure that whatever the cafe is serving is up to their standards as well. I have a very interesting story. I won't name any names again.
But if it's possible, we can chat. No problem. Naming names. You're part of the ecosystem.
The ecosystem is a very funny place, but the sentiment is still there. So we're partners with obviously a lot of roasters, and we're discussing with one of them. And a cafe had an event somewhere, and they really needed beans for this event. It was something a little bit ad hoc. So they went to their specialty roaster and said, I really need this particular bean from this particular origin, let's say Brazil, ASAP. And they said, well, we had just roasted our batch. And when you roast coffee, you can't sell it immediately. You can't drink it immediately. You need to let it settle a bit. And that's usually a 1 to 2 week process. So they just roasted a batch and said, I'll take it. They said, sorry, we can't sell it to you. Would love to sell it to you. But because our quality standards are so high, I can't. You have to come back in 2 weeks. But my event is tomorrow. Sorry, this particular bean I cannot sell. I can sell you something else that's ready to go, but this one I can't. So just to show how strict and stringent the rules are in ensuring that there's a high quality of standard within the roasters community. So it's an incredible industry that really takes the coffee very seriously, and you can taste it.
Amazing. So I really want to ask more about the industry here, because there's amazing stats and it's grown a lot. But just focusing a little bit more on SIPPY. So SIPPY Beans now is a web-based marketplace.
Correct.
So as a consumer, I can do two things. I can go onto SIPPY and the app. I can find specialty coffee cafes this weekend, and then if I want to buy beans for home brew, I can also go on the marketplace and purchase it, and you'll deliver directly.
Correct. So the beans, so we've got two products, the SIPPY App Cafe, which helps you find specialty cafes, and SIPPY Beans, which is our marketplace. Now, what we're trying to build with both those products is hopefully soon what we call a super app that combines both, which would be phenomenal. We have also just launched our SIPPY app, SIPPY Beans app, which is on the iOS store at the moment, which is something that our users have been asking for. E-commerce is great in general, and a lot of e-commerce players, when they build their e-commerce portals or e-commerce websites, they build them very much with a desktop experience. But we all know it's all about mobile experience. So even though you can replicate your e-com experience on mobile, apps are really the way to really give the user an experience. And this is where we decided to go ahead and build a app, which is the SIPPY Beans app. which we're super proud of. This is our second app, and hopefully both the cafe app and the Beans app can merge into one to do something. Well, I'd love. This is kind of like my magical moment. Imagine walking into a cafe, having a cup of coffee because you found it via the SIPPY Cafe app, and going, man, this is really good coffee. I wish I could make this at home. What coffee do they serve? Oh, the app tells me what coffee do they serve. With 2 clicks, I can order that coffee.
Yeah.
And vice versa. I've been ordering this coffee for a long time. I've been making it at home. I wonder if there's a cafe that serves it if I want to go out and have the same experience from home in the cafe. Same thing. We'll be able to find, pretty much push in both directions.
Amazing.
So that's kind of our, let's say, midterm unicorn vision. Our unicorn version in the future is a lot bigger, and we can touch up on that a little bit later. But yes, so today we help you find specialty cafes throughout the UAE, and at the same time, we help you find the best coffee for you can make at home.
Okay.
One thing to note is we do grind, which is important. And if you do have any questions, we have coffee experts within the team. So if you're uncertain about a particular coffee, a particular origin, or how to brew, we can definitely help you out with that. We put in our packaging, we put brew recipes.
Yeah.
Just so we can kind of guide you as to how to get the best experience out of the beans that you
Interesting. And SIPPY, you mentioned unicorns, so there must be like obviously kind of plans for expansion, but focusing on how it started, and you're part of the greenhouse, which is it an incubator by Shahoob? Or?
So the greenhouse is Shahoob Space for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and that was born a couple of years ago, more or less in parallel to when SIPPY was starting to do some of this beta testing. The group has been extremely generous and kind enough to incubate us into their incubator. No pun intended there.
Yeah.
And really kind of help us grow out. This is a place where mentors from every part of the, let's say, business value chain do get involved, and they help us with pricing, they help us with data management and true data, like data science.
Yeah.
They help us with a lot of these things that startups do need, and they have been really the stepping stone and the catalyst for us to launch. The expertise is great. They've also invested with us, which has helped us great. And then, of course, they're part of our board of directors, so they're very much involved in the process in a bit of a more non-strategic way, because the group is not heavily invested into F&B, and so this is a bit of a diversification for them. But still, they support startups through and through. So
amazing.
We're very, very lucky to be part of them.
And so it's an incubator. It's a co-working space. It's in D3. You can use that as a facility. Are you one of the more advanced success stories from that project?
So just to kind of redefine the greenhouse. So the greenhouse is an office at the end of the day for the group. So Ibtikar, which is the internal incubator that we just discussed, is for internal employees only. So not really a co-working space, unfortunately, although we have opened it up to the public a few times for a couple of fun events.
Yeah.
So that being said, are we one of the most successful? Surprisingly not. There's a couple of other startups in there that are doing great. We're all very close together, right? So we learn more from one another, and that's the beauty of the incubator. Like success stories are through and through. They're everywhere, and we love to learn from one another. So whether it's in tech, whether it's in business modeling, whether it's in suppliers, it's something that happens on a daily basis, and we're super happy to be with other founders. Some more successful, some less, but the learning is all there.
Great, amazing. It sounds like a very good project, but it is a separate entity. SIPPY is a separate entity, and you can go out and raise funds elsewhere and everything like that. Yes. Okay, amazing. So let's talk about in the ecosystem, the scene here in the coffee scene in Dubai. How would you describe it to people who aren't familiar with Dubai?
So I think that I've oversaid this many times, but Dubai is a coffee capital without knowing it's a coffee capital. There's a lot of coffee capitals around the world, and London would be one, Sydney would be another, Singapore, Hong Kong, Tokyo, New York, LA. So you have these hubs, right, where specialty coffee really thrives and lives, and Dubai is one of them. But it's not really something that we communicate. So this is kind of something that we're very proud of, to be part of this community, to be a catalyst of the community, to say, hey, Dubai, not just Dubai, the UAE in general has so many fantastic specialty cafes to the extent where, yes, you can call it a coffee capital. The scene is phenomenal. There are so many passionate people here trying to really push the specialty coffee agenda, as I like to call it. There is an arm of the SCA here that really helps with this. There's coffee events that happen all the time. There's a lot of competition that happen. There's the AeroPress competition, which is quite popular, which is a special way of brewing coffee. The community comes together and everybody brings. It's crazy. So baristas will bring their own water that's been filtered. They'll bring their own hand grinders. They really take it serious. So it becomes really crazy, and you can see it's almost like it's like a football match, like the Euro. People are cheering, and then you have the judges. And some of the core members of the community kind of judge each competition. And you could see them like all in a table just tasting coffee and ranking, and the winners and the prizes are quite substantial. People get flown to Australia to get trained by some master baristas, there, et cetera, et cetera. So the community is thriving. Obviously, COVID did give us a bit of a nudge, so things kind of slowed down. But you could see coffee culture starting to kind of kick back into gear. Unfortunately, some cafes have closed, but other ones are opening. So pre-pandemic, I think we were almost going to hit closer to 700 or 800 specialty cafes. At least that's what was in the pipeline. So very much thriving, and a lot of roasteries also popping up. So cafes is just one part of the equation. The roasters are the other. So and they're from all over, from Ajman, from Sharjah, from Abu Dhabi, from Al Ain, from Fujairah. There's an amazing array of roasters. Everybody has their own way of roasting, their own recipe. So the discoverability of coffee is absolutely insane. I mean, just on our platform, we have probably over 400 different types of coffee, ranging from moderate pricing, to coffees that cost upwards of 300-400 dirhams just for 200 grams.
Wow.
And so, when you buy those, you really know how, have to know what you're doing, because, it's like 5 cups of coffee. So it is an absolutely incredible vibe. Wow. So if anybody has a chance to go to a competition or see what's happening out there, I would really, really encourage them to, because it's just, once you get pulled into it, you really get pulled into it. You kind of become a fanatic.
And Brand Dubai get behind it as well, and I've seen that they've heroed people and brought them on trips in Netherlands and things like that. Specialty 100%. Roasters, winners, and
So and that's the thing. So the specialty community, even though there's hubs, again, it's very much connected worldwide. So we have partners that not only roast for the UAE, but they roast for partners in Canada and in the US and in South America. So it's very much like this. What we're trying to do is really educate the user as to the value chain, and really say, why is good coffee good? What is good coffee? How do you know if coffee is good? What is bad coffee? Because the palate tends to start off with bad coffee, and everybody kind of goes through their journey. And I'll tell you about mine in a little bit, which is a little embarrassing, but I think everybody goes through. But
tell us.
Okay, I'll jump into it. So how I got into coffee. So how did Rafi get into coffee? So when I was studying in Madrid, we would go to your local breakfast spot, and you have a café con leche, which is really like powdered coffee with, if you're lucky, real milk. And to me, that was like, oh my God, this is great. This is the best thing in the world. I wake up, and then somebody says, let's go to a good coffee shop. I'm like, what's a good coffee shop? So you go to, a chain, a popular chain, Starbucks, Costa, Caribou, you name it.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, this is great coffee. They're like, yes, everybody drinks this is popular. This is good coffee. And then you go, so how do I make good coffee at home? So you go to the grocery store and you pick yourself up, instant coffee. So you start going through the brands. You go to some of the premium brands. You start drinking Davidoff, for example, and you're like, man, now I've really hit it. I know what good coffee is. And then Nespresso comes along and says, hold the phone. We've got something better for you. If you want really quick, convenient espresso that tastes great, this is the place for you. Yes, it's a premium pricing, but it's also a premium product. So now you have an espresso machine. You're buying all the capsules from all the origins, and you think you really know your coffee. and then a friend tells you, forget all that, let me take you to a real coffee shop, and they take you to a specialty coffee shop. This is where the barista starts to explain how they need to weigh each round of coffee. So if you're drinking, let's say, a V60 or a siphon or an AeroPress, which are terms that, at first you're like, what?
Yeah.
What is this? and when you see the actual contraption, you think you're in a lab, because it does look like you're going to start, doing a chemistry experiment.
Yeah.
So they get you get the barista to measure out, 18, 19, 15 grams of coffee. They fine-tune the grinder for this specific coffee, for this specific method. They brew the water at a specific temperature. Yes, the water has to have a specific TD, a measurement to make sure that it's not too hard, it's not too soft, there's enough minerals, just so you can get the best experience. And then they'll start getting into the ratios and the timing that you need to extract this coffee in order to really pull its flavor. And if they don't like it the first time around, they'll throw the whole thing and brew it again with a different recipe in order to give you the best experience.
Okay.
And you get introduced to that, your eyes just kind of pop out of your socket, because you're like, what is this? And you start drinking it, and you start understanding. Obviously, getting the palate to really start picking up those fine notes, because when you read on a coffee description, it's going to say caramel, strawberry, orange, and all these things, and you're like, am I supposed to taste that, or how does it work? And these are things that you start to get the hint over time and understand the complexity of flavor.
Okay.
But it's an absolutely incredible journey, and I went through it, and I'm embarrassed to have said that I have drank all the other types of coffee, but we all need to start somewhere in order to appreciate what we're drinking today.
And you discovered that in Spain, and then throughout, and then back
throughout
here.
So every single time I travel, I try to find the next specialty coffee shop. But I started in Spain drinking café con leche. I was in Greece drinking Greek coffee or Turkish coffee, as people know it, and I thought that was the greatest thing. And then I moved to Dubai, got myself an espresso machine and a little bit of Davidoff instant coffee, and then somebody took me to a local specialty coffee shop, and I was like,
wow. So, going from, you mentioned earlier, say 16 or so specialty coffees to 600, when we see food trends in different countries, we say, oh, that's just a food trend. But when it's here and it comes so sudden in the last few years, I wonder, what's the catalyst? Is it the roasteries? Is it what is it? How did that happen?
So I have a hypothesis, and I think there's a couple of factors that play into answering your question. I think first is Dubai is a city of transit. People fly from here to here all the time, so a lot of cross-pollination of knowledge comes across. So a lot of the local residents, when they travel, they're seeking experiences, and today more so than before, right? So coffee is one of those experiences. When people travel, they're always going to say, where is the nearest coffee shop that's a good coffee shop next to me? A lot of people are starting to move a little bit away from the chains and really trying to find those F&B experiences, and coffee is one of them. So I think one of my hypotheses is that got brought into Dubai. And when you travel and you see what coffee looks like elsewhere, you want to bring that experience here and showcase it to the UAE. And I think that is one part of the catalyst. Another part of the catalyst is, again, people are seeking experiences, and again, moving away from the chain. So the palette and the sophistication and the experience, it really kind of helps the specialty coffee community. It's what we call retailtainment. It's not just a grab and go. It's a sit down and experience. So I think that's one other aspect of the industry that has had a positive effect for coffee to grow so rapidly. DMCC is something that we need to mention as well. It's an entity set by the government to really help roasters roast locally with a lot more ease than it used to be before. So that is another huge color. So a lot of the roasters that we work for are based out of the MCC and have excellent coffee. So those are three key factors that kind of come top of my head when it comes to why are we here and what happened in the past 4 to 5 years in the specialty cafe community. And I think it's something that is absolutely wonderful. I mean, we kind of saw it, and this is why we launched our star, because we saw that there was an inkling that this will grow, because we saw the popularity of the ones that had already started.
Yeah.
The ones that had already started 4 or 5 years ago are now behemoths in the industry. They're very popular, but they they haven't stopped refining or improving their offer
Yeah.
and the taste of their coffee at the same
Like
time.
maybe so Tom and Serge, Common Grands, Bull and Roux, or Arabica, or these ones.
Yes,
Raw.
those are. I mean, those are some honorable mentions, as we like to call. But there's
So
just so
many,
many.
and you won't. I will.
I don't want to
But
mention any
no,
names
that's
because
fair enough.
yeah.
It's just really this is yeah, but you know, talking about the roastery part, I thought it was fascinating because I don't think everyone would know that that sort of process you described happens within the UAE.
Oh, very much so, and it's exploding. So there's a couple of different business models that happen within the roasting community. So one is you want to open your own roastery. You know, first you need a master roaster because that comes with a lot of experience. You can't just pick up roasting. Yes, you could technically roast at home. You get a pan, you get some green beans. Or you get a popcorn machine. That's another way of roasting coffee, and you roast it in a pan. And then yes, you can grind it and drink it. Or it works. It works.
Have you tried it?
I have not.
Don't do this at home.
No,
Yeah.
don't do this at home, but try. No, I'm just joking. It's so that's, I mean, and a lot of people still do this in Africa, in Ethiopia, in Eritrea, and that kind of eastern coast of Africa,
Wow.
northeastern coast. A lot of people still roast like this, kind of, you know, the old grandpa way, right?
Yeah.
So you can start. You know, you can open your roaster. You buy yourself a roaster, and you start roasting. And you know, you need to source your green beans. Where are you going to source your green beans for? Are you going to fly all the way to Colombia, Brazil, Vietnam, for example? Or are you going to find a broker? Most likely going to find a local broker that works with another broker in Europe who's going to source the green beans for you. Or if you really care about the quality of coffee, you are going to go to the farm in Colombia, for example. Find that one farm that, you know, knows exactly how to grow their coffee, when to pick their coffee, and you're going to get probably a small micro batch and bring that and start roasting. Or what you could do is say, I want to open my own roaster brand. I'll partner with somebody that's good at roasting. I'll source the green beans because I can source really good green beans, and I'll then give them to somebody that knows how to roast. So I don't have to invest in the equipment and all of that, you know, very, very tricky way of roasting coffee. So you could do that. So there's a couple of different models, and because these have become a little bit more popular, all these ways of roasting, the roasting community has also kind of grown. So you see brands popping up every day, and they're all specialties. So they're all really care about the quality of the coffee, and then once you get into the branding and the packaging, and it becomes so much more exciting. It's like, you know, it's kind of like buying sneakers. You go into
get really into it.
You really get into it. So that has lent itself well, especially during the last few months, in the last 12 months or 18 months or so, we've seen a huge uptick of roasters kind of popping in, and the more the merrier, to be honest, because there's just so much to experience.
Wow. So of the independent cafes here who have specialty coffee, what would the percentage be of those who work with homegrown roasteries, obviously not grown beans, but home prepared roasteries versus imported coffee?
So if I were to take the specialty coffee community as well, I would say it's probably very close to 80 to 90%. A lot of the specialty cafes here use local roasters for many reasons. First, support local, of course, 100%. Second of all, it's economies of scale. I mean, if you're going to start sourcing beans from international roasters, you know, import duties, et cetera, it becomes a little bit more complicated for them. But some people combine both. You could have, so espresso is something that's a little bit more, let's say, quick and scalable, while filter coffees, V60s, Chemex, siphons, et cetera, things that take a little bit more, let's say, personal touch to them. It takes, I mean, on average, to do an espresso versus a V60 takes you upwards of 10 minutes if you take the whole process together, because you have to, you know, measure, grind, brew, etc., bring to the customer. That whole process is quite lengthy. While an espresso is a little bit more fine-tuned, and cafes usually try to kind of put together an operational method that makes them go a little bit quicker when it comes to the espresso. So what some people do is say, okay, so my espresso I'll source from a local roaster here, because that's something that I'm always going to have, and it's an always on, and the consistency needs to be on. But when it comes to filter coffee, which is the more experiential type of coffee, this is where you can start playing with guest roasters. And a few cafes do that, where they say, okay, for this month we're going to bring in a roaster from Japan, or a roaster from Hong Kong, or a roaster from Germany, etc., etc. And then they combine. But I would say the majority, 100%, the majority, 80% of them, and 100% of those 80% use local roasters, which is great to see.
Amazing. But is there a specialty distributor? Is there an equivalent of a Lavazza who do specialty coffee, or is it more that the local roasters have kind of been able to fill that demand?
The latter, yes. The local roasters have been able to. There isn't one entity that kind of combines everything. I mean, we are that entity, but for the B2C side.
Okay.
But as far as a B2B side, where you go to one entity and you have an array to choose from, no. Usually cafes will do their own research, reach out to different roasters, do tasting, understand the pricing models, et cetera, and see what they can offer. And roasters have a lot of choice. And you have a lot of roasters as well. So it could be a daunting task if you're a cafe to pick the right roaster. And it usually works with word of mouth. You ask your friend that has a cafe, who do you recommend, why, et cetera, et cetera. And it's really the roaster's job to ensure that they keep that consistency. Consistency is such a difficult thing to do, especially in specialty coffee, because the consumer expects, if you're going to have one great cup of coffee, you want to have that same cup of coffee every day.
Sure.
And that's very difficult to do. And that's why I said some cafes calibrate their espresso machines, twice, upwards 3 times a day. So they keep tasting it on a daily basis. So baristas they drink a lot of coffee. Well, some don't, but some do.
Some do. Well, Rafi, you're clearly passionate about coffee, and you know a lot about it, which always helps when you're building a business around it. Do you have a team around you? How does SIPPY run? I'm sure there must be tech experts and everything like that.
So, being a startup, we're a very scrappy team. Yes, we have a great team ahead. We have a managing director. Her name's Shizine. She's doing a fantastic job in just kind of managing the operations. We have a business development lead. We have obviously social media and content, and we have obviously logistics, which is also an important role. When it comes to tech, you're looking at him.
Wow.
I don't do
everything.
A lot of coding. Of course, we outsource a lot of the help that we would need to. But since we're in the fundraising round at the moment, we're looking to beef up our team and really take it to the next level. Again, our app that we've launched is really kind of like the first version. And building an app, I'm not sure if people assume that's easy. Definitely is not, even if somebody else is doing it for you. There is a lot to take into consideration. So that's what I'm saying. Our first iteration of the app is just a kind of our first go at it. We are seeking a lot of feedback from our end users to really make it better. But this is the team. And obviously my co-founder, who is in Russia, does a lot of the data analytics behind what's doing well, what's not doing well, BD, et cetera. He's unfortunately not in the UAE. He lives in Moscow. But in today's day and age of Teams,
flexible
Zoom,
working and everything,
whatever. So it doesn't really make that huge of a difference.
Amazing, interesting. So you're raising at the moment. Is that what would you do with that? Would you expand, or what are your plans?
You kind of hit it right on the nail. Yes. So we want to first. Give a lot to the user that have been asking from a tech perspective and a user experience perspective, whether it's on the app or on our e-commerce. But the majority of that will go into expansion into Saudi Arabia. We see that as the next big market. There is a similar simmer of specialty coffee that's happening there, and it's going to explode like
it's happening. You're right.
And there aren't many players or any players that are really tackling the B2C side, and this is where we see a great opportunity in moving in. And of course, we need to localize the content, localize the experience. So it's not just copy paste into Saudi. It really needs to be something different. So we're looking to hire a team that will help us with that expansion. So not just hiring a team here locally, but also in Saudi Arabia, whether that's Jeddah or Riyadh. So we're very excited about that. We see a huge opportunity, and with some of the partnerships that are kind of brewing at the moment. As what I said in the beginning,
No
we
pun
have
intended, yeah.
no pun intended. We really have the opportunity to be the biggest global player when it comes to specialty coffee marketplace from to a consumer perspective.
Okay.
So we're super excited about it.
Amazing. So it's global. Are you focusing on the Middle East, or are you focusing here first? Because obviously, you've got an opportunity here. Yeah.
So the opportunities here, 100%. So UAE is our main market for the time being. We do ship throughout the GCC. What we've started to test, we also do ship to the United States. And some people go, well, how much is shipping to the United States? And I will tell you honestly, it's very expensive. So if you buy yourself a bag of coffee that, let's say, is 80 dirhams, yes, it will cost you 70 dirhams to ship it. So some people ask, well, why would I do that? So the way we position it is saying, this is not for the people that are, let's say, conscious about the money they spend on coffee. These are for the people that are looking for something exclusive, because most of the brands that we have on our platform are not available in the US, and those are really for the connoisseurs, the people that look for something, an extreme experience that they're not going to be able to get there. And these are the types of people that are buying from us. And surprisingly, we have a lot of great customers out of the United States that really are just trying every single local UAE roaster in the States. So it's wonderful to see.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I can understand that. Like, if people want things from a certain place, they'll pay the premium to get it.
100%. I think anybody would, depending if you're passionate about something, that's something that we see, and we're testing the waters.
But from the first app, the cafes are here. They're not,
Yes.
as in I won't land in Copenhagen and pull out my SIPPY app and.
Not today, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, but not today.
Is this part of the unicorn idea?
That is 100%. So for us, being global is extremely important. It's funny because at our, let's say, heyday, when before the pandemic, we were getting a lot of interest from Australia for some reason, and really people wanted to become part of the board. Honestly, the way we've built the model, the way cafes plug into it, it's so easy. You could plug in from anywhere in the world. You could be on the move, and we can make it happen for you. It's just unfortunate at the moment that we are focusing on the SIPPY Beans model a little bit more today, because that one is generating quite a lot of traction for us. And with this next round of funding, we're looking at both products, and here I can make one cohesive one, the super app I was discussing earlier, because we don't want the users to have two different experiences, two different journeys. We really want to merge into one that's cohesive, that comes with a lot more perks. I mean, today on our SIPPY Beans app, we have loyalty. So if you buy 10 bags of coffee, you get a free gift from us, most likely coffee. We have subscription models that we're going to be testing as well. But we really want to see how the cafe app and the Beans app play together in a cohesive way that it makes sense for both user journeys. You might only want to buy coffee at home. So the Beans, the cafe app shouldn't really kind of dilute that experience, and vice versa. But if you're looking for both, then you should click together, which is a bit of a tricky exercise to do. And obviously it takes a little bit of time, and as anything else, money.
Yeah, definitely. And so the business model, obviously, on the e-commerce side, you will be the facilitator, so there'll be fees. And on the SIPPY, the original idea, what was the business model?
It's very similar. It was a commission on every single cup of coffee sold. So the way we approach this is, we shouldn't get paid as the service provider unless we're adding tangible value to the cafe. So we told them, if we are responsible to bring one customer to come to the cafe and purchase a cup of coffee using our app, this is where we've done our job. But if that doesn't happen,
it's because of the when you said you put money into it and top it up, so correct. I can see how it's measured. Yeah,
exactly. So this is how we measure it. And yes, so that was kind of the idea, was to really prove that we're adding tangible value. Otherwise, a lot of people can say, I have a loyalty program. Great, awesome. No, that's not. And that's why when I was discussing it earlier, I said we built it with the cafe. So the cafe said, well, I really need to know if you're actually doing your job, or people are coming in because they're coming in, and they, with we didn't want to take that credit away from them. A lot of cafes were afraid that we're going to cannibalize their sales. They said, okay, so you're going to come in and take X amount of percentage. It's like, no. This is actually an incremental injection into your total revenue when it comes to coffee. Because a lot of cafes that we're talking for that time were very successful. So when they saw us coming in and taking a commission, they said, are you going to take my business? We're like, no, we're going to increase your business. And if we don't, we don't get paid.
Amazing.
That was the model.
Yeah. So it's what's refreshing and what's different about you, Rafi, and SIPPY is that from a expansion story, you're looking at the Middle East, but also global. Some companies focus on this region. Other companies are based in Dubai, but don't focus on this region. And they have global companies or whatever. So this is quite, an early stage, interesting thesis of can you build something that works here, but also kind of expands globally.
It's an excellent point, actually, 100%. So we set off, and this is our mantra, set off to really empower the local businesses here. We don't want to stop doing that once we expand, and it's always going to be how do we empower the local independent players to compete against the big chains, whether that's roasters or whether that's cafes. And that's always going to be our mantra, moving from country to country or city to city. But Dubai is really our home. We were born here. Dubai has helped us grow. The consumer base here is excellent. They're passionate. They love to communicate with us. We have a lot of fun speaking to our customers and really understanding their pain points and trying to address them as best as we can. So obviously we are born in Dubai, but hopefully become a global citizen a bit.
Amazing.
Well, as a proper Dubaian, I would say.
Positive note to finish on. Well, thank you so much,
Pleasure.
Rafi, for sharing the story of SIPPY, and we'll download the app and we'll follow it in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your time, and hopefully you guys get to drink some good coffee.
Definitely, and we'll try it this weekend. Cool. Thanks,
Fantastic.
Rafi. Thank you.
That's it for another episode of Dubai Works. Thank you so much for listening, and please leave a review on the podcast platform that you're listening to. It really helps with organic searches. Also, if you'd like to appear on Dubai Works or know someone who has an inspiring business story in Dubai, please do get in touch on any of the smashy social platforms.